Hello, again, my name is Adonis King. I have a show on Saturdays at 1 o'clock on the Pacific Coast and, of course, 4 o'clock on the East Coast called All X Cast, and you are invited to be a part of that show by going to All X Clubbin' on Blog Talk Radio. So you just put in blogtalkradio.com/allxclubbin' and come be a part of the show. It is for adults only, and we cover news that's a little different than most. Today, though, I've been covering a lot of esoteric things in my studies regarding what might be going on. Is there something more to the BP spill? And yesterday I talked about something that was in the airport with Denver airport. That was a mural. You might want to take a look at that and study it. Now today I'm looking at the tarot. And the significance of the tarot is that many times people have said that, sort of like the Illuminati card game, there are many cards that seem to bear some significance. And so this, of course, led me to a study of a gentleman by the name of Aleister Crowley. Now, Crowley, who lived between October 12th, 1875 and December 1st, 1947, was born Edward Alexander Crowley and was known as both Frater, Perdurabo, I don't know if I pronounced that right, and the Great Beast. He was influential English occultist, mystic, and ceremonial magician responsible for founding the religious philosophy of Thelema. He was a member of the esoteric Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, as well as co-founder of what is called the AA, and eventually a leader of what's known as the O.T.O, or Ordo Templi Orientis. He is known today for his magical writings, especially the Book of the Law, the central sacred root of Thelema. Also, he wrote widely on subjects including a large number of fiction and poetry. Crowley was a hedonist, bisexual, recreational drug experimenter, and social critic. In many of these roles, he was in revolt against the moral and religious values of the time, espousing a form of liberalism based upon the rule, do what thou wilt. Because of this, he gained widespread notoriety during his lifetime. He was denounced in the popular press of the day as the wickedest man in the world. And today, folks, I don't want to spend too much time on Crowley. You can go look up his history. And he is a man who wrote a book called the Book of Thoth regarding the Egyptian tarot. In fact, he had a whole set of cards made for the Book of Thoth. And as I began looking through the cards, I was looking at the images, and I was struck by some things that, I don't know, under the BP situation being what it is, the connections and so forth, I found several cards that really interested me. They concern something called the Great Work. But what is the Great Work? This is what really has struck me, is that this seems to run with many organizations that are into what are called the ancient arts, or the ancient mystic religions, or mystical schools. But let me just read something to you, and you can go get this book. I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet. The Book of Thoth, the Egyptian Tarot, by Master Sororian Aleister Crowley. You might remember the song Mr. Crowley is done by a certain Aussie. Anyway, referring to a card that, this is the first one I'm going to bring up, refers to a card in the tarot, in the deck, which he has composed, called Lust. Interestingly, the card, as I looked at it, in the way in which it was interpreted by Mr. Crowley in his renderings of the cards, it appears that lust is underground. It's got a lion. In some decks, it's also called strength, but it appears that they're holding a bubble or a cup underground. If you look at the card, and there's an awful lot of green, by the way, and yellow in these cards. If you really look at them, there are some things very symbolic of the sun, the BP symbol being like the sun. There's a lot of green. There's belief in what's called the green man in this belief system. And the book itself, if you go through it, is almost like a manual of world destruction. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look just at the card of Lust today, and maybe I'll do a series in which I'll show some of the other cards and what I think about them and what Crowley said. Anyway, let's go through this. It says here on page 95 of the Book of Thoth by Crowley regarding the card Lust. First of all, he makes it very clear that this card is, let's see, the seers in the early days of the Aeon of Osiris foresaw the manifestation of the coming eon in which we now live, and they regarded it with intense horror and fear, not understanding the procession of the eons and regarding every change as catastrophe. This is a real interpretation of and reason for the diatribes, the beast and the scarlet woman, and he goes into these things in a chapter. But on the tree of life, the path of Gimel, the moon, descending from the highest, cuts the path of Theth, Leo, the house of the sun, so that the woman in the card may be regarded as a form of the moon, very fully illuminated by the sun, and intimately united with him in such wise as to produce, incarnate in human form, the representative or representatives of the Lord of the Eon. She rides astride the beast. In her left hand she holds the reins, representing a passion which ignites them. In her right hand she holds aloft a cup, the Holy Grail, aflame with love and death. In this cup are mingled the elements, listen to that, the Holy Grail, aflame with love and death. Let's go on. I'm going to skip ahead here just a tad, where it says, this is the card of a divine drunkenness or ecstasy. Think of people with oil. The woman is shown as more than a little drunk and more than a little mad. And the lion, which often has a lot to do, if you go and look at the lion in symbology, it sometimes represents Britain, also is aflame with lust. This signifies that the type of energy described is of the primitive creative order. It is completely independent of the criticism of reason. This card portrays the will of the Eon. In the background are the bloodless images of the saints on whom his image travels, for their whole life has been absorbed into the Holy Grail. Now you shall know the chosen priest and apostle of the infinite space of the prince priest, the beast, and in his woman called the scarlet woman all power is given. They shall gather my children into their fold and shall bring the glory of the stars into the hearts of men. For he is ever a sun and she a moon, but to him is the winged secret flame, and to her the stooping starlight. This sacrament is the physical magical formula for attaining initiation, for the accomplishment of the great work. It is the alchemy, listen carefully, it is the alchemy and process of distillation operating by internal, get that, internal ferment and the influence of the sun and moon. Behind the figures of the beast and bride are 10 luminous rayed circles, and are the Sephiroth, latent and not yet in order. And every new eon demands a new system of classification of the universe. At the top of the card is shown the emblem of the new light, which is the 10 horns of the beast, which are the serpents sent forth in every direction to, get this, to destroy and recreate the world. It's very clear, folks, right there. Master Therian, Aleister Crowley, believed in genocide for the purposes of basically bringing in the global new dawn. Alright, folks, well, I'll let you study some of those. Go read the book. Go look at it in light of what's going on with the various elements of things and see, is there a plan to this? Who's made this plan? Where did this plan come from? Ask yourself these questions. And, hey, asking questions is never bad. It represents a free society. This has been Adonis King with another interesting little news brief for you to consider. Go look at it yourself. Go study it yourself. Let me know what you find. And be loved. Because remember, that's what you are.